Hello friends, welcome to the Point. In this session, let's continue our discussion on Sino-India relationship. So the China's military base in Djibouti, which is the Horn of Africa. In July 2017, Beijing sends its personnel to Djibouti, its first military base overseas, and two Chinese Navy warships. It left the military port of Zhejiang in Guangdong. The place is Zhejiang in Guangdong for Djibouti with an undisclosed number of military personnel on board. So in the recent years, the government and the People's Liberation Army, they have sponsored a campaign to promote a sense of ocean among the civilians. So the country is now portrayed both as a continental power and a Pacific power, against the traditional view of yellow culture, which glorified China's heartland history. And China's scholars are now, they are very keen in introducing a concept of blue culture, that is an ocean culture, to its population. So China asserts that the main role of the base, it would be to support Chinese warships on anti-piracy and humanitarian missions in the region, and it's not about seeking to control the world. So now the setting up of the overseas base in Eastern Africa, it suggests a fundamental shift in Beijing's stated policy of no forward deployment, and it also raises the possibility of forward deployment at India's doorstep at Pakistan Gwadar port, where the deployment currently it is intended only to protect the Chinese workers at the facility, and these facilities, it can serve immense strategic leverages in a world where the nations are looking to project influence while avoiding the armed conflicts. And it would be a naive to consider that Beijing has not calculated the strategic leverages that the MSR would provide if it materializes. As China, it moves quickly into the Indian Ocean, this appropriate Indian response would have to resolve around the building of a stronger naval capabilities. Economic relations between India and China. So India and China, they enjoy the economic ties which have progressively increased over the past years, and China is among the top 5 trading partners of India, and it has been hailed as among the biggest positive drivers of a relationship that is often beset with difficult political problems. But the global economic slowdown, especially that of Chinese economy, it has seen a trade declining amongst themselves, and there are two primary drivers of the burgeoning trade between China and India. So the differing comparative advantages of the two countries and sustained high growth rates in both the economies. So the different comparative advantages of the two countries, they provide grounds for strong economic exchange. So but still, China's economy is 3 times as large as India's economy, and its manufacturing sector is 5 times that of India's manufacturing sector, and Chinese exports to India thus consist primarily of manufactured goods, especially the various types of machinery is imported by India from China. And conversely, India has some of the world's largest reserves of iron ore, bauxite and manganese, and its export to China consists primarily of raw materials to feed that country's expanding steel and automotive sectors. Trade deficit and demands for greater access to Chinese market. So India's goods trade deficit with China, which had ballooned to about $52.7 billion in the year 2015 to 16 from just $1.1 billion in the year 2003 to 2004, which eased marginally to $51.1 billion in the year 2016 to 17. So India wants a greater access to the Chinese market, and there has to be an evenness and balancing of the country's huge trade deficit with China of the two nations to be able to move together on the path of progress. So here India it pushed for greater access in at least pharmaceuticals, IT and software services and agriculture. Indian pharmaceutical companies, it can meet the standards that is prescribed by China as they already export to US, and this stipulates very high quality standards. And also India is very strong in IT software, and which would like to export this to China along with the fruits, fish and vegetables and so on. So India also wants higher inflows of investment from China. So the recent bilateral talks on issue that relates to farm products, which took place in the backdrop of military standoff from Doklam area, it failed to make an headway. So it failed to move forward. So China deferred taking a decision on a grant of market access to Indian rice, pomegranate, okra and bovine meat. So while India opted to stick to its ban on imports of apple, pear, milk and milk products from China. So India's animal husbandry. India's animal husbandry department is learned to have raised the issue of lack of market access for Indian bovine meat in China, and China is yet to lift the import ban on India's bovine meat, and that it had first imposed in the year 1990 in the wake of incidents of foot and mouth disease in India. So India has initiated 12 investigations against Chinese products in the first half of this year, becoming the country with the most trade remedy which props against China. And India has launched an anti-dumping investigation over photovoltaic cells and units that is imported from China, Taiwan and Malaysia. Next, talking about the Singapore, with a population of about 240 times smaller than India, it sells twice as many goods to China each year. So the connectivity problems in the Himalayas, long and a natural land barrier between India and China, it extends to sea routes that account for the bulk trade between the nations. A lack of quality roads around the ports, insufficient warehouses, high tariffs and visa restrictions, it has contributed to a lopsided and lackluster trade relationship. So in the year 2014, it cost $1,332 on an average to export a container from India, which is compared with $823 to ship from China. So the service trade between China and India, it remains very small. So even though India has merged as a global powerhouse in the form of in the terms of information technology and IT enabled services, language differences, it creates a natural barrier to both export of the services from India to China. So in some analysis and the opinion from the both sides are yet to tap their trade potential, primarily because the trust between them is fragile and superficial, and India has blocked Chinese investment in the sectors like telecom, ports and shipping due to the security concerns, which made it difficult for Chinese employees to obtain visas to work in India. And China, on the other hand, it restricts Indian companies from entering many sectors, and that shows an institutionalized preference for its state-owned enterprises, and it provides subsidy to its companies that some claim contravene international trade law. Steps taken to resolve the trade imbalance. So the India's concern on rising the deficit has been discussed with China at various fora. So this includes the highest level of leadership of the two countries' efforts on to increase overall export by diversifying the trade basket with emphasis on manufactured goods, services, resolution of market access issues and other non-tariff barriers. So the commerce ministries of both India and China, they have signed a 5-year development program for economic and trade cooperation. And this 5-year agreement, it was signed in the year 2014 to lay down a medium-term roadmap for promoting a balanced and sustainable development of economic and trade relations. And this program, it also recognizes that the trade deficit with China, it is a matter of high concern for India. And against this backdrop and in the spirit of mutual benefit, India and China, it shall endeavor to strengthen cooperation and gradually achieve a bilateral trade balance over the next 5 years. And the solution need to increase India's domestic competitiveness by removing infrastructure bottlenecks through an accelerated infrastructural development. And India has launched its Sagarmala project to expedite modernization of its ports along with their better connectivity with hinterland. And Chinese capital and technology, it could help India accelerate its infrastructure revolution. And China has an abundance of capital looking for attractive investment opportunities. And for over the next 5 years, India's infrastructure projects, it will provide one of the largest opportunities. And the other way to help eliminate the trade deficit is to get China's manufacturers to start making goods in India. And so far, China's foreign direct investment to India, it has been nearly about $1.3 billion over the past 16 years. And earlier, during the visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to India in the year 2014, India and China signed 12 agreements in Delhi, and one which will see China investing $20 billion in India's infrastructure over 5 years. And China also agreed to help bring India's aging railway station system up to date with high-speed links and upgraded railway stations, which is set up as an industrial park in Gujarat and Maharashtra, and to give more market access to Indian products, which includes pharmaceuticals and farm products. So these are the steps taken to resolve the trade imbalance between India and China. So in the next session, let's discuss about the One Belt and One Road project. Thank you.